we need to understand that there are different levels of communication as well. There is a wonderful book written by Brett C. Oberg. The title of the book is Interpersonal Communication, in which he has divided the different levels of communication. These levels are: first is intrapersonal communication, the communication that takes place within a person. Okay, let us say, for example, if I wake up in the morning, I would communicate myself many ideas, what things I have to do throughout the day, what are the tasks that I have to complete throughout the day, whatever happened yesterday, how I should react to it, okay, or in what way it could have been better if I had uh, done something in a different way. So all these things, all these instructions that I give to myself is known as intrapersonal communication. When a person talks to himself or herself regarding something, it is intrapersonal communication. And everybody has to do this for the better understanding of yourself as well as better understanding of the situation. So whatever is going wrong around us can be analyzed only when we analyze our own deeds, our own attitude and approach towards that thing. So every, let us say for example, night, a particular person sits with a diary, writes down whatever he has or she has done in the day, during the day, and then it can be communicated to yourself that this thing could have been done in a better way, differently. So what would be that different thing? If that is written and that is instructed to our mind, that is called as intrapersonal communication. When, that is when a person communicates within himself, when a person instruct himself or herself regarding something, that is known as intrapersonal communication. Then the second level of communication according to Oberg is interpersonal communication. Okay, now as the title suggests, it is interpersonal. Inter is two, personal is two people or persons. When the communication takes place between or among more than two or more persons, that becomes interpersonal communication. It is one of the most form or level of communication that is always focused in academics. For example, in your SY become also you have business communication, in which you are going to learn about interpersonal communication. So you yourself is one thing. When you appear in a particular circle, let us say for example friend circle or any other place, how you behave and speak and listen and react is all called as interpersonal communication. So your behavior, your reactions with other people is called as interpersonal communication. Then the third level of communication is organizational communication. Okay, it includes some specific kind of networks, some specific kind of hierarchies, and one must know what kind of message should be delivered in what particular way, or through which hand, or through what kind of person that can be communicated. That is known as organizational communication. Let us say for example, if there is an office, who would be the leader of that office? If that particular one decision has to be taken, who would be taking that decision? How that decision or that particular message would be percolated to the last person in that organization, would be conveyed? All these things come under the or falls under the term organizational communication. Okay, let us say for example, if there is a college, okay, there would be principal who is the head, there would be office which looks into administrative work, there would be teaching staff which would be looking into different subjects, and there would be examination section which would be looking into examination work. Okay, there would be a library. Look, within one organization there would be different organizational setup. Now when one message has to pass on to the other people working in the different departments, how that would be conveyed, who would be responsible for what, okay, what is the responsibility of each of the person in that particular organization, that knowing that is known as organizational communication. Let me give you one very important example. Okay, everyone knows Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Okay, he is a very popular Indian cricket team captain. What is great about him, many people say that the leader like him in his team, he communicates so well that each person knows his role, what he or she is expected to do on field in that particular match. And when it is known to each and every person what is his or her role, then they can perform in a better way, or he or she can perform in a better way. So therefore organizational communication is the particular setup by which the message is percolated or circulated in a specific way. Then we come to the most important and the most what we can say, the most uh, uh, highest level of communication, that is mass communication. When you do not interact with one or two people, we do not interact with our organization or colleagues only, but when we will have to address people from different sectors, that is known as mass communication, in which we actually address to the people from different sectors. They are neither our colleagues, they do not share the same kind of philosophy that we share, same kind of point of views as we share, but there are mixed people, mixed audience. Those are known as, this kind of communication is known as mass communication. It includes, let us say, for example, seminars, workshops that we conduct for the betterment of organization, as well as for percolating different kind of knowledgeable information. So all these are the levels of communication that we have to go across when we communicate at different level, at different places. Now when we talk about communication, we often listen about verbal communication and non-verbal communication as two major types of communication. So what is verbal communication? When you talk about verbal communication, we include language in that. With the help of language, when we communicate, that is known as verbal communication. So there would be one specific language. What that one specific language is, it could be English, it could be Hindi, or any other language. And when that particular choice of words and phrases and idioms communicate your message in a particular way, that is known as verbal communication. Remember, verbal communication has its impact with the choice of words, phrases, and kind of sentences that we choose. Okay, but there are also some specific kind of skill sets which we must know when we are using language for communication. So what are those skill sets, or what are those skills that we must know? Let's know now. The first thing is narration. Narration is the way in which the story is told to somebody. Narration is the way in which the account of what something has happened is told to the people. Okay, this is one of the most important way to communicate to the people. Okay, those who are very good storytellers, they are very good communicators as well, because they know how to tell the story and how to convince the people by telling that story in a particular way. Okay, so narration, our ability to tell the story in a very very interesting way, is known as narration. The second thing is probing. Probing is asking the questions. Our ability to ask good questions results in our ability to find good answers to those particular questions. So if you have the ability to ask questions in a better way, to ask proper questions, then probably you grow knowledgeable person, because you know how to deal with that particular topic. Okay, so if our ability questions is known as probing when it comes to verbal skill set. So when we talk about somebody is very good at communication, he or she must be having this skill that whenever it is necessary, he or she asks the proper questions and gets his or her doubt clear by asking those proper questions. Third thing is, or third verbal skill set is argument. One must know how to argue. Okay, one must know how to respond to the different point of views which are set in front of you. In another way, argument is also known as your ability to convince the people, or persuasion. Persuasion appears when you try to convince the people, and it includes argumentation or argument. This is one of the verbal skill sets. So in order to become a good communicator, we need to understand what argument is and how actually is an argument made. What is a good argument, what is a bad argument, what are the different fallacies that can be there in one argument, how people can be moved from their particular point of view to the different particular point of view. Okay, so having knowledge of argument and argumentation in general is known as one of the as known as the skill of argumentation or skill of persuasion. Another little idea that we must have when we talk about verbal skill set is that analysis, our ability to analyze and write that analysis in the form of language, or to convey that analysis with the form of spoken words to the people. Okay, not just analyzing something and keeping that analysis to yourself would help you. We must be able to analyze the things, and we must be able to convey that analysis in a powerful way, either in speaking or in writing, to the audiences. So this is again another important verbal skill set, verbal communication. And finally, exposition. That is, you must be able to introduce new ideas to the people in a powerful way, so that people would get engaged themselves to know about your ideas. Okay, there are a lot of, let us say for example, blog writing. Blog writing has evolved as a new career for the people, or even YouTube video making is called as vlog. So that becomes a new career for a lot of people, but that also includes a lot of new ideas. The video is liked by the people only when it gives you some new kind of ideas, or new kind of analysis, or new kind of argument, or raises new questions, or narrates you a new story. So exposition includes all these, and it also includes that you should be able to introduce to the people new ideas in a different way or differently. So knowing the old ideas and analyzing them and putting them in new way is also called as exposition. So exposition is introduction. So if you can introduce the people new ideas regarding different things, that is also known as one of the verbal skill set. So when you talk about verbal communication, you need to have these five skills in you. Okay, what are those skills? Narration, probing is asking questions, argument, that is persuasion, you should be able to convince people, analysis, and finally exposition. Okay, so exposition is to introduce new ideas. These are five verbal skill sets. Remember, in your examination, either of these would appear as a question for you in order to get the meaning out of it. Fine. Let's move on now. There is also something that is known as non-verbal communication, and it is always referred whenever there is a talk regarding communication skills. So if there is a verbal communication, there is also non-verbal communication. It is one of the most important sections of communication skills that always finds its place in any discussion on communication skills. So what is non-verbal communication? As we have seen that verbal communication includes language and the choice of words and phrases and idioms. Non-verbal communication does not have any language, but it uses body and the distance and some other features to communicate the ideas and emotions. So let's understand what is non-verbal communication is. Okay, the first thing that non-verbal communication consists of is that your body and the place and the time and what you do with your body, that thing is called as non-verbal communication. The first thing is known as kinesis, that is use of body in communication. Okay, so the way in which you sit, the different kind of activities that you do with your hands, legs, facial expressions, eye contact, everything comes under or falls under this category of kinesis. Okay, so when we talk about body language, it is always said that whenever you listen to somebody, you need to maintain very good eye contact. You need to maintain your body posture. You need to understand the gestures of the speaker. Because of these online sessions and presentations, you probably cannot see me. So therefore, there is no issue of eye contact and body language. But when actual lecture takes place in a classroom, you would find that these all things are equally important. So there is a lot that is communicated through body. Therefore, our body language must be trained in that particular way in which we remain active throughout that particular session of communication. Okay, so use of body like your postures, the way in which you sit, the eye contact that you maintain, and the most important thing is that the facial expressions that suggest something out of you. In your business communication, it has its own relevance. Probably I will not focus more on body language right now in this session, but there would be a different session on body language differently. Then the second most important feature of body language is proxemics, which is also known as utilization of space, the kind of distance that we maintain and the space between the two or three people that is maintained at the time of communication. Let us say, for example, if I am talking to my friend, I will stand very close to him and then I will speak. If I am talking to my principal, I would maintain a certain kind of distance. That would also affect on the pitch of my voice, whether I am speaking louder or less louder. That also will make impact on these kind of things. So space is also used in a very effective way when we talk about non-verbal communication or non-verbal effective communication. Then we have haptics, which is also known as touch. Okay, if I am talking to my friend, I would very generously pat on his back, keep my hands on his shoulders. I will stand close to him. That shows the intimacy between me and my friend. If I am talking to my students, okay, I would you would definitely find that there is some kind of distance that is maintained, and there would be a very less touch that would be involved in that particular communication situation or that particular communication. If you are in a kind of casual scenario, you would find that a separate kind of different kind of distance and physical touches are included into that. So touch is also one of the areas of non-verbal communication. Let us say, for example, if there is a student who says that he has scored 30 out of 30 in internal test, okay, I would most probably pat on his back, okay, and then that would that he has done a very good job, okay. So without speaking, that appreciation for his efforts would be communicated just by patting on his back, okay. But the same thing if I do forcefully, and that is my anger that I am expressing with him, I'm doing the same thing. Either I'm touching my hands on his back, but if I'm doing that generously, that is appreciation. If I am doing that forcefully, then it is actually I am targeting him. So thing is that touch is also like instruments by which we communicate non-verbally. And then there is something that is known as paralanguage, okay. We say the same thing in a different way. Let us say, for example, even saying sorry or saying thank you or saying please can have different meanings on the basis of its intonation. Okay, if I'm saying sorry, sorry, if I'm saying this sorry loudly, or if I say please, if I say please, please, no, in each of these ways in which I'm saying please and sorry and thank you would carry different meaning. What loudly I speak, what kind of pitch that I maintain, that carries some kind of message, okay, that is known as paralanguage. Let us say, for example, if somebody says that, sir, I score only 7 marks out of 30, and if I say yes, you are clever, my saying him clever is ironic, satirical, so that is not the meaning that he is actually clever, okay. And therefore that would be communicated like clever. If I am saying like that, you can understand that I am making fun of that particular person. So just by the pitch, it can be communicated, and therefore that is known as para language. So voice modulation in our speech is known as para language. The next thing, which is known as chronemics, which is associated with the time. Say if I am saying something to somebody in one particular time, that same thing cannot be said to somebody else in the other time. So time also matters when you communicate. So the use of that particular time to communicate one particular incident, to communicate one particular message, also makes a very effective impact on that communication. And that kind of use of timing is called as chronemics. Remember, when you listen to Kapil Sharma show, you would find there are jokes which are cracks. Those jokes have meaning in a particular time. If the time is removed and same joke is cracked or same criticism is cracked on somebody, then there would be no, probably no laughter, there would be no possible humor there, okay. So jokes are even created, understood, or they could be enjoyed when they have specific timing of the speech, okay. So the speech or timing of the speech is known as chronemics. And finally, if there are particular persons, they have personal objects through which they try to communicate. Okay, let us say for example, if somebody has um, a big car and he comes with his car to somebody else, he is already making an impact on his audiences, on his listeners with his car. Okay, so there are a lot of these kind of personal objects by which what we say in general language is that making an impression, first impression, that first impression is made on the public, that is known as adornment or personal objects or artifacts, okay, by which people are impressed. Okay, so these are the features of non-verbal communication. Now, what is a good communication? See, so far we have seen what is communication. Then we have looked also into what could hinder, what could possibly convert a good communication into bad communication. Then we have seen the levels of communication. Then we have seen verbal communication. Then we have seen non-verbal communication. But now, as we are coming to the conclusion of the idea of communication, what would be probably the good information, or what would be a probably something that is known as a good communication? So there are six C's which give you good information, and if these C's are followed, then probably there would be an effective communication. The first C stands for clear communication. Okay, so whatever you speak, there is a clarity in your speaking and there is no ambiguity. It is not having two meanings or three meanings, or it has several meanings. So if it is not that, then whatever you speak is clear to your audience, and if that is followed, you probably can communicate in an effective way. Second thing is that second C stands for concise. Concise is that whatever is expected from you, only deliver that much. If you tell the people or your audience too many things at one particular time, probably they would miss the main message that you want to communicate with them. Okay, so therefore we need to be concise. I would say we need to be short, but it is not, it should not be that short that it would lose its meaning. Okay, concise is something that is known in our general language as a pinpoint clear. Okay, so therefore the second C in good communication stands for conciseness, pinpoint clearness. Third thing is that correct or truth. Okay, whatever you say must be correct or truth. If you involve some kind of imagined facts into your communication, and if they are discovered easily by the audience, then you would lose your trust in your audience, and then what would happen? Probably your audience would not take you seriously, and therefore your communication would definitely fail. So whatever you speak, we must be correct at the time of delivery of that particular message, and it must not have something that is imagined. It must be detailed with factual data. Then the next C stands for, or the fourth C stands for complete. Okay, whatever you would be speaking that has the complete, that is incomplete message, probably there is not full information that is given to the public or the audience, and therefore that message would not deliver in a proper way, or people would may think differently. You wanted to say different thing, but because it is incomplete, therefore there would be a problem with understanding of the public if that is incomplete message. So in order to avoid that kind of situation, और rather than just clarifying that मैंने ऐसा नहीं कहा था, मुझे ऐसा नहीं कहना चाहिए था, you have misinterpreted me, you need to be complete when you deliver that kind of message. Okay, fine. The fifth C stands for courteous. Courteous is that following mannerisms in your communication. Okay, you must be courteous. What do you mean by courteous? You must follow mannerisms. If you have listened Amitabh Bachchan when he speaks, you find he speaks Hindi at Kaun Banega Crorepati, but he is very courteous, he is very generous, he always give preference to the audience, and then he speaks. So, being courteous is actually being generous and giving respect to the audiences and then speak. So, being courteous is important. And finally, you need to be concrete. You must have a very good factual data, studious information with you when you say something to the public, say something to your partner in your communication. Okay, so these are the 6 C's that would make possible a very successful or effective communication. I hope that you have got my point so far. Now, how is that possible? Of course, by using one particular language, and in this particular language, one particular language, we are going to use English as our language. Instead of English, there would be any other language, remember. But for the sake of our understanding, and because we are dealing largely in English, therefore we have chosen English. So when we talk about English language, there would be four major basic skills. We will look into these four major skills in the next lecture. Okay, so we will be